Hey everybody, this is Tony and I'm here today with a special guest, none other than actress and singer, Miss Ashley Tamar Davis. How you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Of course, I know you as Tamar Davis, but your whole name is Ashley Tamar Davis. But you are one of the most dynamic singers I have personally ever heard in this
Thanks.
lifetime. I definitely have to say that you've been in the entertainment industry for a long, long time since you were a child, pretty much. Um, and most people, I think, probably got to see you on The Voice or either from Tyler Perry Plays, which is where I met you from Tyler Perry Plays. But for you, starting out, where did that love and that passion for music and for entertainment come from?
I think it came from my parents because I didn't really have a love for music. It wasn't like I'm gonna lie and say, okay, at 5, I really, like most kids, they were always singing for their parents or performing for friends. I was the total opposite. I
Hmm.
thought I was gonna be a ballerina or I thought I was gonna be a school teacher. I just had an imagination. Like I used to just close my eyes in the car and just dream of things and whatever it was. And so, my first stint at hearing music and taking a liking to the stage, I guess, was in grade school, but it wasn't something that I just was like, oh, I just have to be a singer. That wasn't, our family was full of love and about education. So that's all we talked about in our household. It wasn't music and artists. I didn't have posters on my wall. So my first introduction to it was like in grade school, but then professionally, probably wasn't until I was in a female group and I started getting on planes and in recording studios and doing all these conferences and competitions. And I thought it was fun, but I didn't know
Hmm.
it was a career. I didn't know I could do it as a career.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Education became something that was big for you, especially for your parents, even back then. Of course, you were in girls' time, and your parents basically, wanted you to go to school after that. So, what role did education end up playing in your adult life? I know that you graduated from college as well with a degree in entertainment, um, music, uh, business, or entertainment, or something like this. I can't get the right
It's
words right
okay.
now. But yeah, you did graduate with a degree. So what role did that play in your adult life?
Well, I mean, education, like I said, was always talked about in our household. It was not an option that you were not going to go to college. My parents weren't strict about our grades at like some parents were because my brothers and we just had a great childhood, so we didn't lag behind. There would be times when my mom had to come up to the school and talk to the principal about me or my brothers, but education was just like always in our household. So going to college, of course, you're seeing the Cosby Show and A Different World, and it's like you want to go to school. My mom pledged Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and so like I wanted to pledge Delta Sigma Theta because my mom
Yeah.
pledged, and I just saw how and another part of it was my mom talking about her college days. And so that always was intriguing to me. And so, but I didn't realize that education would pay off truly
Mm-hmm.
until this year. I'm now as a music supervisor for a major TV show on HBO Max, and all of that training prepared me for this. So education, it's something that I talk about in my academy to this day. I get some kids want to go to YouTube University, but some of these major opportunities are not looking at YouTube University on a resume. They're still looking
Yeah.
at 4-year colleges. And I wish more of Black and Brown kids will understand the value and how early on they should be taking an initiative to start saving the money, finding out how to get grants and scholarships. And
Yes.
to me, there's never a wrong way to get to your end goal. You just got to figure it out and get there. So education is officially paid off this year. So thank
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
to the $35,000 a year at the time. It paid off.
I
Still
mean,
paying on my loans, but it paid off.
that's right. That's right.
Uh,
But you know what? That's something nobody can ever take away from you, no matter what. So I always, am a champion for education because it's not like you can go somewhere and somebody can say, well, you didn't learn that. Like you can't, you can't take that away from me, no matter what. So,
right.
and I always respect the fact that you always talk about those kind of things, especially in the music industry, about people actually being educated on different things. as far as copywriting and getting, certain words and contracts and how to get music put up and put out and all that kind of stuff, because a lot of people don't talk about that, or they don't tell you that kind of stuff. They just kind of sell you a dream, and then it's like, okay, it's more than what I thought it was. So now what?
Mhm.
And then you
Yeah.
crash and burn. So I'm glad that you are somebody who definitely talks about that kind of stuff all the time and really try to educate, people on what it is to be an artist, period, or be somebody in the entertainment industry, period. You even call yourself an edutainment advocate, which I love because I never heard that. It's a unique way of putting things. But speaking of that kind of stuff too, I want to talk about the Tamar Davis project, where you also, do this kind of stuff, including with working with children. So how did this come about, and why was it so important for you to end up, starting this kind of, thing?
Well, the Tamar Davis project hasn't flourished outside of the Sign Arts Academy. So I've been putting all of my focus on the academy. But the
Mm-hmm.
Tamar Davis project started from when I was living in Houston, and I kept seeing all this great talent who did not have the access to or the gall to move to LA or New York at a young age. And the inside question for a lot of talent in Houston in particular is, why do we have to leave?
Mm-hmm.
Or some people have been like, oh, I wish I would have left when X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And so I started to just mentor about 11 teenagers at the time. And everyone was at a different place in their career, where they wanted to be, or like an example of their work. And it was fun until it wasn't fun, because after a while, it's just like you couldn't get the consistency out of some of them. And it felt like I was doing all of the work and they were just waiting for me to do the work. And it just got real tiresome. It was like, listen, you're not paying me to do this. I'm pouring into you, but it's
Right.
taking forever for me to get a response back. So the Tamar Davis project is really just building up um, younger generation, but it's really more hands-on. Whereas the Sign Arts Academy is more general and broad. It's more classroom oriented. It's more creative arts classes oriented. And from there, like, I was just kind of drained with the Tamar Davis project. So I kind of put it on hold. And then I created a book, 100 Things to Know as an Independent Artist, and then a 27-page workbook. And even that is like an uphill climb, because schools don't have the financial dollars, which sucks, because it's like, once again, kids are learning from YouTube, and it's totally different when someone else is telling you the real what to do's and what not to do's, so that you don't go broke.
Yeah.
There's been
Yeah.
times where we got robbed $20-something thousand on a project we thought was going to happen. And you can never teach that stuff on YouTube. You just can't.
Right.
You can't teach it on Google. So it's been a blessing, because there's been kids who are really like, oh my gosh, you helped me to understand if I really still want to do it, which is okay, versus like, oh my God, I really want to do it. And then they're calling as follow-up calls, and they're still just like, this is so much. And I'm like, yeah, welcome to the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but it's fun. I love giving back, but I think people forget, if students want to learn, that helps us want to teach. And I don't
Yeah.
think anyone says that. It helps when you want to learn, because then it feels
Mm-hmm.
like we're
Mm-hmm.
doing it for, the right reasons, and not just one over the other. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But I mean, at least you are, trying to outpour that knowledge and that experience that you already have. As most people probably wouldn't even think about doing that kind of thing, because you consume with yourself most of the time, probably. So, I think that's very admirable of you to even think about creating something of that sort, to do that. So, um, that's awesome. Kudos on that. But
Thanks.
when I think about your career, when I look at your career, I always think of the phrase like hiding in plain sight. And the reason that I say that is because it's like you were literally everywhere at some point in your life and career, and it's like people really don't notice until they see you somewhere else, and it's like, oh, I know her from this, or I know her from that, and it's like I had a lifetime of of a career, really. I heard
Yeah.
you say once that you had to choose a career over chasing fame. So at what point did you have to decide that, and were you ever chasing fame at any point?
I mean, growing up, you don't know that you're like, oh, I want to win a Grammy, or oh, I want to do this, or oh, I want to do that. And sometimes that stuff is like in arm's length reach, and sometimes you're almost there and it's just like
Hmm.
the rug is pulled from under you. I don't think I ever chased fame, but now it's looking back, it's like there's a difference between being famous and having a career, you know.
Yeah.
um to me, having a career is not only that my bills are paid, but my name is in good standing, my character is not, you know, demeaned.
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
still punctual. I can still work with new people that love my craft and love me as a person. I have peers that really speak highly of me. Not everyone will probably speak highly of you. There's sometimes people will speak about you and you don't even know what they're talking about. Like something just recently came on my plate last year about me not paying some musicians, and I never knew I was supposed to pay them, right?
Wow.
Then and so I'm talking to them on a daily basis, and finally I said, well, why didn't you slept on my couch? Why didn't you
Right.
say, hey, remember that time? They're like, oh, well, we didn't want to think about it. And I was like, well, someone in your camp is telling somebody that I haven't paid you from almost 15 years ago. So we got to talk about this, right? So
Yeah.
it's some stuff that you won't know about. You know, sometimes people will work with you just on a referral. And sometimes, like right now, I'm still auditioning for stuff. You know, it doesn't mean that just because I work with the who's who that people just automatically will want you for a project.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean by having a career. Like I'm still auditioning, I'm having fun. It's tiresome after a while not hearing a certain callback on a certain project that you might want. But
Hmm.
I think fame comes with a lot of sacrifices that I personally would not like to deal with. You know, I've seen how fame ruins families, and I'm a family oriented girl, and it's very hard if I were to ever think that I didn't have a great relationship with my brothers, or if
Hmm.
my parents weren't still married. Not saying their marriage was perfect, but it could have really pulled them apart, and it could have been another conversation about my dad did this, my mom did that. I
Uh-huh.
personally like the fact that that part of fame is, I don't want that side, you know.
Yeah.
But the sacrifices come on both ends. And I think the difference between having a career and fame is I can go to bed at night peaceful. I still
Hmm.
have my ups and downs where I'm like, oh, when is my next show? Or COVID hit happened. You know, I had to learn how to navigate. But I
Right.
enjoyed that. I enjoyed saying, okay, won't be able to sing as much, perform live, but what else am I good at, God? Okay, show me those gifts. And that's how I ended up into the executive side. So I love it. I love being able to look back and be like, yeah, I've worked with those people, but this is who I am. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. It's
And
definitely a
so it's
blessing.
cool.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people, of the general public are able to say, I know her from somewhere or I remember her from somewhere, but they aren't able to, have you in every tabloid or every magazine, and
Yeah.
be crazy every week. So it does work out. I would hope.
Yeah. It's
I
cool.
would hope, yeah. But of course, a lot of people started to notice you from The Voice too that you went on. But I understand that Tyler Perry was instrumental in you going on that show in the first place. Is that right?
Yeah. He was such a jewel. He flew me to New York to audition. I auditioned. It was a lot of processes. I think I auditioned like three, four, five times. And then he didn't even tell me he was going to show up to my blind audition. I just happened to walk down the thing and I was like, what? You know, he's tall. And I'm like, what? He's like right there next to my mom and my brother and my uncle. And I'm like, what are you doing here? It was like really cool. But yeah, he was the one who he and I would have talks consistently during all the shows. And one time he was like, you should really consider Broadway. And I'd be like, Mr. Perry,
Yeah.
I don't know how to get into Broadway. Or he'll say, you should get on The Voice. And I was like, I don't know where to start with that stuff. And one day led to another. I got a call. I think I was in San Diego. I'll never forget it. Hey, Mr. Perry wants to know, do you want to audition for The Voice? I was like, yeah. And then that was it.
All right.
History.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't think those shows are necessarily, in my personal opinion, I don't think those shows are necessarily cut out for people who actually can sing because we always see the person who can actually sing get not chosen. That's what I see, and that's what my personal opinion is. But I think you did an awesome job, and I'm glad that you actually went on there for people to, even see you and to get that exposure, really. But from my understanding, I don't know if this is true or not, but you applied or tried to audition for other shows before this. Is that right?
I tried to audition for American Idol and they literally said, you're too polished. And I remember
Wow.
I walked out and I was just crying. I was like, eh, you know, I was really devastated. It was right before I started working with Prince. I was so devastated. But at that time, it was in Vegas. It was in one of those big arenas. And
Hmm.
we sat in the bleachers, and then they brought us down like row by row. And it was like 6 of us, and then it's like 12 rows behind us. So it was like 6 times 12 is what, 60, 72. So it was like
Yeah.
72 of us, but we were like per group. And then we would sing one by one, one by one. They got to me and they're just like, oh, yeah, you're too polished. And that was it, you know? I was like, oh, okay. And then a few months later is when I started with Prince. So,
Wow, wow. That's amazing though, how, things really don't work out, but they work out. And
mhm.
matter of fact, I watched the ET interview that you did during that time, and with Kevin Frazier, and he said something about you not you missing destiny or something like that due to you being in girls' time. And I was like,
Mhm.
I don't think she missed it at all. I think she's living in her destiny right now, because sometimes you don't have to, go in the route that people think, and things are actually working out when it looks like it's not, so I don't think you missed your destiny at all.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, media has to have a whole tabloid to make you tune in,
Right,
but
right. It's
love
crazy.
Kevin Frazier. I love Kevin though at ET.
Yeah, yeah. Kevin is cool, but you definitely had a very close relationship with Prince, of course. You guys worked together. You were his protege, as some would say. And you also ended up with him when you were very young, and then it ended up coming back around that you worked with him in the early 2000s. Again, from my understanding, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a long story. I had to put it in a book. I wrote this 2013 when he passed. I had to edit it. I still need to just take it out. It's like super thick. We've not even talked about when we're going to press it and put it out. It's just so much. But yeah, I mean, I was 13. I could have sworn I was 13, but somebody else said I was 14. But yeah, I mean, I was at Paisley Park, and I remember recording in the studio, and I didn't meet him. I'm sure he was there, because now looking back how big Paisley Park is, he probably
Hmm.
was somewhere there looking at me and I couldn't see him. Typical Prince. But yeah, and then 2005, I was back in his presence, and I just took a chance and walked up to him and said, hey, my name's Ashley. You recorded a song for me at 13. And that's how it started.
Yeah, that's amazing though. That for especially for somebody to be able to remember you, especially an artist of that caliber, who probably sees somebody every day and that says something like that almost. It's crazy that he would jump out and say, yeah, like, yeah, I remember you. But you guys did end up working on an album. That album didn't get official release, but you guys did work on the album, as well as the single that went on his album and was supposed to go on your album. But after that, you ended up putting out an album which you call your debut now, which is My Name is Tamar. So what went into that project for you after, going through all you had went through, especially working with Prince musically and everything? What went into that project for you to create that and say, like, this is my own, this is my coming out, my debut? What was the process like for you?
Well, I mean, I'm working on my fourth project now, and I just forgot how much work it takes to do an entire album. So, that first project, because I was on tour with Tyler Perry, we just used our own finances in certain cities. Me and two of the musicians from the tour, Terrell Sass and John Elmore, just went into the studio and we just started cutting a lot of songs. Even to this day, I think we did maybe 20 something songs and chose the ones that made the record. But it was a very creative process. Like, I think Love Speaks, we came up with together. Just Do
Hmm.
It, we came up with together. Bad All By Myself was actually, I was hoping to get it on the soundtrack for I Can Do Bad All By Myself. And
Right.
that was that didn't happen. So yeah, and then I worked with a guitar player on the tour. I just used my resources that I have, kind of like in the Bible, like, what do you have? What do you have in your possession? Let's use that and make it work. And that's what happened. And it was just a lot of work, just the artwork and getting the mixes and then sending it off to Bernie Grumman to get mastered. And it just was so much work. And even now, this was a vinyl project, and I'm working with Jason Moran and Mono Neon and Jelly Bean and Mark Kelly and Eric Harland and Stephanie Farrell from the Marriage Counselor, and just
Oh yeah.
coordinating, where am I going to record these songs? Who's going to send me the files? Are they going to send them to my co-executive producer? It's a lot of work. I was even telling my team, I don't know, after this project, I might just be doing singles, because this is a lot of work. But I mean,
Yeah.
the process is always different, but that one in particular was because we were on tour and we just used each other like, hey, are you tired? You tired? No, let's book a studio in Philly. And then we would go to Philly and we would book a studio. So
Okay. And speaking of the new music, I did see you put out a single last year, Imagination with Jelly Bean Johnson as well. So is there a specific direction that you're going to take or that you ever take really in music? Because you do
no,
really everything pretty much.
no, I don't take a certain genre approach. I just take songs that are talking to me and then I structure them on the project so that they tell a story. So
Mm.
if you listen to all of them, they still have like the same kind of funk, pop,
Yeah,
rock
yeah,
feel. But then I feel like ballads, I have to throw in my ballads,
yeah.
But this particular project is called My Name is Ashley because my first name is Ashley. I took two songs from My Name is Tamar. Everything else is brand new. I am so excited because these newer songs are just like they're very old school funk. And I'm so excited for people to be like, yo, like she really, gave us some songs this time. So
Yeah. So do you have a release date yet?
so it will be August 12th. That's called the annual vinyl day,
Okay.
vinyl record store day, vinyl record
Mhm.
store day. And it's only going to be 200 vinyl copies. It goes on pre-sale June 1st. So, if you get your hands on it, you'll get a copy of the vinyl. And I reveal the album cover next week. If people are
Okay.
on my text message thread, they see it on Friday. So it's, I'm excited. I'm trying different visuals. I'm trying more social media, getting more. I have so much visual content that I've yet to just like get it edited and just my day to life, like how I'm cooking, how I cook my food, just
Right.
stuff like that, so
Yeah, people don't understand sometimes that as creatives, your mind is probably like running all the time.
all the time,
It's
notes
crazy.
everywhere, post-it note, like I have post-it notes everywhere. I have papers, like I have all these notebooks and I still write on paper. Like it's just like what,
Yeah, you have
so
to do it however you feel it at that time. You just got to do it.
mhm.
Sometimes the phone might be like 10 feet away, so you just got to write something down. It happens though. That's awesome though. But I'm glad to hear you putting out new music. And people can expect that soon. So, and it's also going to be available on all digital outlets as well. Eventually, right?
Right.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that. And then I wanted to touch on your podcast. I see you got a podcast as well. So talk to me about that. So what made you ended up starting your podcast, and then what kind of things are you discussing on here? Is it just entertainment talk? Is it just music? Is it just what is it?
It's all centered around the arts. However, I have thrown on some, there was something about breast cancer just because my god sister recovered from, or her mother died from it. So it's stuff
Mm,
like that. I have one on the deck about a Black woman who owns the most bed and breakfasts, who's a mentor to me. And it's just like, how do you get capital to build that kind of opportunities in real estate? So the crux of it is the entertainment and arts. Like there's things on the horizon that are strictly just arts, but I like talking to anyone who I feel like is talking about something that's a call to action. I'm a type of person, don't just tell me a problem, let's talk about the solution. And so that's really where the podcast came from. I was tired of seeing these webinars and people still were not saying anything. I was like, you're saying what? Like, what have you
exactly.
said after an hour? So mine is very different. I've had someone on there talking about digital social media marketing, and he breaks down everything. He says stuff that no one's ever said. So that's really why I started it. And I like talking. So I was like, well, let me just start talking and showing more of my personality. And that's kind of where it came from.
Okay, okay. And of course, I definitely got to talk about some of the plays that you worked on with Tyler Perry, because I mean, I would be crazy not to. But you, of course, worked with him on The Marriage Counselor, Madea Gets a Job, and a few others, matter of fact. I think for me, that performance of He Loves Me that you did on the end of Madea Gets a Job was just um, unimaginable. It was out of this world. It was just astronomical, really, honestly. Your voice really has no limit, it seems. Although
Thanks.
I know it might feel like that sometimes, but it has no limit, it seems, because the fact that you can sing that song that most of us know as an R&B song, and you can throw in opera notes, like it's crazy.
Thanks.
Is there any one performance of any play that you have done that you remember or that sticks out to you, or any one night that sticks out to you from any performance?
I mean, they all had very interesting moments. I mean, Tyler liked to do a lot of jokes, like if I'm trying to exit off the stage and be upset, he would hold the door where I can't exit, you know what I mean? And I would have to improv. I love that about Tyler. Starting out in acting, I just remember taking nothing but improv classes, and those really do pay off when you work with him, because some people would work with him and they just wanted to work with him to laugh. And
Yeah.
I liked growing with him. So Tyler's shows were always special, but I think my favorite one would have to be Motown the musical, because I had invited Prince to come see me in that. And I didn't tell the cast. I didn't tell not one person in the cast. I told the stage manager, but I didn't tell the cast. And all of a sudden, the show is supposed to go up at 8:00 and it's like 8:15, 8:20. And the cast is like, why are we starting the show? And then eventually they're like, we heard Prince is here. And they're looking at me like, is Prince here? And I was like, I don't know, So that was the best, because the cast was literally on edge the entire show.
I can
It
only
was
imagine.
so cute to see them like, Prince is here. Did you know he was here? And I'm like, I don't know. But he's like, really here? Like, is he really here? It like throughout the entire night. It was so hilarious. Like, it was so, just thinking back, just like, I'm never gonna tell y'all if he's here, because you're gonna go out there and try to oversing. I'm not telling you. But that was one of my favorite moments.
I can only imagine just trying to perform, just thinking about Prince being in the audience is probably just one of the most nerve-wracking things you probably could ever have in your mind when you're getting ready to go on stage.
Charles Prince, whatever.
look, you get to say that now, see that.
Yeah, I
But
do, but it still was just like, it's Prince,
yeah. But for you though, like as far as the acting, where did that come in at? Was it something that prompted you to start acting? Because for the most part you were singing. So did you
No, I
just
mean,
jump up and say I
singers
want
are
to do that?
actors. Singers are actors. To me, the best of singers. Like, I think Jill Scott is one of the best actresses. I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
you know, there's certain singers who just have that on their vocal side. They just naturally tell stories, and then they're good acting. So I think
Mm-hmm.
they've always gone hand in hand. I've always done musical theater. It's the church that allowed me to just sing. And then as time progressed, middle school, you do musicals, high school, you do musicals, so that's how I
Yeah.
kept getting into the acting. But, to this day, it blows my mind how many singers don't act or not even thinking about acting. It just
Yeah.
blows my mind. So yeah, I've always been doing both
Yeah.
literally at the
Yeah.
same time.
But
So
it's amazing that you say that too, and I'm now thinking about it. But a lot of people don't realize that songs are really stories. If it's a good song, I'll say that
mhm.
are normally stories. And people don't really understand that you take somebody on a journey. Normally, when you have a song, a lot of the songs that we talk about are some of like the old school songs, and I always mention Denise Williams, Silly, and a bunch of the others. But those kind of songs give you that emotion. You can feel it. You can go in your mind with it. You like, okay, I'm right here. Wherever this artist is, I'm right there. I never felt heartbreak before, but I'm broken today. It is what it is.
yeah, that's true.
So I don't think people really realize that. But I just thought about that when you said that. So that's true. But I won't hold you any longer. I do thank you so much for being here with me. I'm glad to hear that you're working on new music. So again, just remind people when they can purchase that.
June 1st, next Tuesday, after Memorial Day shenanigans.
Okay.
And yeah, it'll go up that day. And then as they get sold, then
Okay. Sounds
uh,
good. Is there anything else new that we should be looking out for?
no, not really. There's things I'm working on that I can't talk about, but as soon as I do, I'll definitely let you know.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm definitely glad to
Yeah.
hear that. And before you go, though, just let everybody know where they can find you on social media and your website, or any sites that you might have, actually.
So ashleytamar.com, ASHLEYTAMAR.com. I think we're trying to make sure it goes to that. If not, it's always tamardavis.com.
Mm-hmm.
Then on there is all my socials, Ashley Tamar Music for Instagram and Facebook, Twitter, the Ashley Tamar. YouTube is the Tamar Davis. I can't change those. It's too late because I'm starting to use my first name. So
Yeah,
yeah.
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 Okay, sounds good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is none other than Miss Ashley Tamar Davis. Thank you again. Okay.
Thank you.
No problem at all. You please enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks.
All right, I'll see you later.
Bye.